Welcome to Courageous Conversation with Teresa W. Gamble, powered by Carcia Resource Professional Consultant.
Greetings and welcome, everyone. This is Teresa W. Gamble, your host of Courageous Conversations, and today we got something special. Y'all know I'm always coming up with something to be able to bring this information to you live, and this particular topic I think will be beneficial for everyone, especially coming out of this pandemic and all these eviction moratoriums, and we're trying to move differently now. So we have an amazing Miss Tina Noble, the founder and CEO of the Noble One Credit Counseling. I got you today. Credit counseling. We are going to launch a series of conversations, savvy credit strategies, where you do it yourself. But she's going to give you the know-how, the tips, and the strategies to do it. And I'm going to let Miss Noble introduce her, what qualifies her to do this, so we can get into this conversation. Welcome, Miss Tina Noble.
Thank you so much, Miss Teresa. I appreciate it.
No problem. I'm always looking for those hidden gems that we need to be aware of. So, who is Tina Noble?
Well, Tina Noble is a multitude of everything. She is first a child of God. That is absolutely for sure. She is someone that is been married. It'll be going on 32 years, raised 3 children, and just have had a full life. I can honestly say at the age of 52, I have had a full life, but I still have a lot more life to live.
That's good. That is good. That's good. Congratulations on your 10-year of marriage.
Thank you. It's it is what it is. Yes,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
People think
So,
it's
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said people think it's easy, but it ain't. You work in marriage. Just like we're gonna work on this credit and rebuilding people's credit, you work on your marriage too. Okay.
What? Now you done said a whole mouthful right there. I'm finna stay focused. I'm not gonna go there, but you got a valid point. Marriage does take work, like this credit. So, what is the Noble One Credit Counseling?
The Noble One Credit Counseling came about because I have my own real estate company. It's the Noble Connection Realty. But during my years, I've been doing that for 20 years. And during my years of that, we get clients that, you feel for them. They want to become homeowners, right? But they might not be all the way there when you send them to their financial mortgage their mortgage lender, and that mortgage lender tells them, I'm sorry, but you don't qualify. Your back end is too high. Your front end is too high. People don't understand that. Trying to build your credit takes time. It doesn't have to take a long time, but it takes time. It takes consistency, and it takes the proper diligence that you have to do. Yeah, you can simply go and hire someone to do it for you, but what I have found is that when people go and hire someone to do it for them, they wind up right back in the same situation. So at least if you know how to do it yourself, even if you go and get someone else to do it, but know how to properly do it yourself, because if you do find yourself back in that situation, you'll be able to kind of self-correct yourself before it gets too far. So the Noble One credit counseling came about from my experience of dealing with different customers, consumers that were trying to purchase homes. I am the type of person that when I know something, I tell it. I don't hoard information. When I know it, when I gather information that whether it works for me or not, I know if it's not for me, it's for someone out there, someone that's deeply connected to me. And I am a connector. I am a networker, a connector. So I have through years, I can go as back as maybe junior high and high school. I have had people always cling to me, come to me, or listen to me when I'm saying something. So the Noble One Credit Counseling came about as it's something that's free that I do. I've been doing it free all these years, and it's something that I wanted to give back to the community, not just my community, not just the community of people that are trying to come out and become homeowners, but also for any and everyone, because it can reach you. And I feel the younger you are when you learn this, then the better off you will be. I wish somebody had showed me these things when I was younger, because I would have been better prepared when money landed in my hands.
That's good. That is real good. Wow. So do you have, I'm quite sure your real estate license do not cover credit counseling. I'm quite sure you had to be certified to be able to do that, to give back to the community, right?
Technically speaking, no, you don't have to be certified to do credit counseling. It comes from people's personal experience. If you know that you've been through something and you've been able to correct it or get through it, and you've learned the steps to do it, don't you share that information with someone if they come to you?
Yes.
So that certifies you right there. If you are genuine with the information that you put out and you are genuinely trying to help others, then that's your certification. But what I did was during the pandemic 2020, because I am a real estate agent, I also try to read up on Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae products and things that are um, coming out that are going to help our consumers, whether it's in the real estate industry or just in general. And one of the things that they were offering was a certification class to become certified through Freddie Mac as a credit counseling specialist. So it was free of charge. I think it lasted maybe 8 or 9 weeks. And it was intensive, but it was great. It was wonderful. It gave me the hedge of knowing what was out there, how they were changing different credit rules, how they were implementing new scores that were benefiting the general public with the crisis that was going on that happened because of the pandemic.
That is amazing. Now that's a good use of your time of making sure you was already doing it, so you getting the credentialing to go with it. That is amazing. So with all the eviction moratoriums that's taking place and a lot of people getting evicted, some people having to turn back in cars they purchased prior to the pandemic, and every time you turning back property or not being eligible for shelter, that's taking a hit on your credit. So walk us through what are some of the preliminary things we need to be doing as consumers if we're in those situations to try to salvage or save our credit.
First and foremost, I suggest this to any and everybody: pull your credit reports. Okay? Pull them. Now, before 2020, you were able to get a free credit report once a year, free from all three of the credit bureaus. If you go to freeannualcreditreport.com, so it's www.annualcreditreport.com, that allowed you to be able to get a free credit report once a year. So what I used to do was I would do it like more so towards the end of the year, because that's giving me that year. And then the next year you have another free credit report. Well, since 2020, and in the midst of 2020, they allowed it to where you were able to get your credit reports monthly. So you were able to get them free, check your credit all the time, monthly, with no hits, no extra. You shouldn't have to pay for it or anything like that. And that was just because they knew, because of the pandemic and how rapidly it spread, and with everybody losing their jobs, they knew they knew it was a big thing. They knew people were gonna, by the masses, were going to be affected by it in damaging ways, whether they wanted to be or not. Now, so that's first and foremost. Pull your credit report so that you know what's on there, and you pull it from all three of the bureaus. Now you have these, credit karmas and things like that, and those are good companies to keep you kind of in tune and in line. But for those companies, you have to pay a monthly fee for that, if I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken. So why pay a monthly fee when you can learn how to do it yourself? A lot of people don't want to do it themselves because it's tedious, it's time consuming. But um if you become disciplined, you become patient, and then you learn the knowledge of what you need to learn, it can be done, and it can be done efficiently, and it can be done effectively. See, when you go out there and you have someone else do it for you, you don't know, first of all, if they are legitimate or not.
Right.
Okay. And they charge a lot of money, so they're not cheap. And if you can go and pay that, then you can go ahead and do it yourself and pay nothing. I mean,
Right.
well, you pay them for stamps, okay? But
Wow.
outside of that, and then the other thing is you just have to become motivated. You have to be steadfast in your journey to building your credit, maintaining your credit, and knowing how, when, and where to establish your credit.
That's good. That's good. That's a good segue into what I'm gonna ask you next. Now, I've been seeing a lot of programs. I know Experian have been running commercials about using like our monthly expenses, like our rent, our utilities, even our Netflix account, cell phone bills to boost our credit score. Is those are good tools to use, or are those tools that's just something for show?
No, those are excellent tools to use. What people don't know is, okay, you hear FICO score, right?
Yes.
Well, and even I was ignorant to this information until I took my certification course, right?
Right.
So I always thought, being in the mortgage industry, that there's two pretty much FICO scores. There's a credit score, and then there's your FICO score. The FICO score is what's maintained and what's necessary, and that's what mortgage lenders look at. And what it does is your mortgage lender usually do a tri-merge. So they will do, it's a tri-merge credit report where it reports from all three of the different bureaus, and each bureau has a score on you, right? And that
Right.
score could range from anywhere between maybe below 300. Well, about 349 is usually no credit and below. But and it can go as high as 850. Some of them may even go as high as 900. But there are different FICO scorings that are being used. So if you're going for a mortgage, then that's one type of FICO score that they look at. But like what you just said, they have one where it's called FICO score '09. It came out in about 2014. And what that one does is it looks at your medical collections. So if you have open medical collections, that's the one for rental history. So if you are going to apply for an apartment and you get denied, well, you're looking at one thing, because 9 times out of 10, you've probably gone and looked to see what your credit score is, right?
Right.
But they are pulling from a whole nother source that's called FICO score 9. So with that one, they look at third party collections. Okay. So if it's no negative collection, if there's open medical collections on there, then they have less of an impact. Sometimes it just depends on what it is that you're going for. Um, they have third party collections on there. So if you have items that have gone to collection agencies, then sometimes that can impact your score. And then, of course, your rental history. So if you have, prior to them developing that particular system, if you had good rental history, it never reported onto your credit report. Only your bad things with your rental history reported on there. Well, with that one, your good rental history will be able to report on there as well. But what people have to really be careful with is, when you're going to rent out a house, a home, or whatever it is, ask those companies and make sure that those companies are reporting to the credit bureaus. Or
Wow.
if they're not reporting to all three of them, which ones are they reporting to? Because that was another thing prior to the pandemic that people weren't understanding. And after pandemic and during the pandemic, it's becoming more and more necessary to understand that.
That's good. That's so if they do not report, if you are renting a home or apartment or a duplex and they're not reporting, what can the consumer do to make sure the good payment history is being reported?
One of the things that I definitely have to tell people is you have to track your own payments. So if that rental company or homeowner, if you're doing it by privately through the homeowner, if they are not reporting it to the bureaus, then you need to do your own type of paper trail. So one of the best paper trails to do would be paying out of a personal checking account,
Okay.
because your checking account is always linked to some form of a bank account,
Mhm.
and that you will always be able to go back and kind of pull the history of your payments for that and be able to submit that. And that comes important, especially if you are trying to go and purchase, you're trying to go and purchase a home. That is something that can be handed to your loan officer if your landlords did not report to the bureaus. Then that can be something, a source that you can show that it was paid on time, no return NSF, payments. And it just works for your benefit. If you don't have a checking account to utilize, then definitely do it with a money order. Don't ever hand them cash, because if you hand me cash, I can say I never received it and there's no record of sort to be able to track that. And if you're going to do a money order, then I always suggest, if you don't do it through your bank, some banks, I remember back in the day when you get a money order for free, but of course now some banks charge as much as $10 and $15 for a money order.
Right.
Is it worth it? It's always worth it if it's for something that benefits you in the long run. But you can also go to the post office, the U.S. Post Office. Don't do currency exchanges or those little paycheck cash paycheck cash in places. And I say that because a lot of times I have seen that sometimes those would not stand up. Sometimes
Mhm.
you can have fraudulent those. People can easily duplicate those for fraudulent, activity. And you got to go through a whole nother consortium with that. So I say go to the post office. They're usually about 90 cents or a dollar.
Right.
Okay. And it's from a U.S. government office. So that stands and that holds. If you can't do a money order, cashier's checks are always good. But if you do your cashier's check, make sure it's from your bank,
Okay.
so that it is, you can track it, one, and that we know that it's legitimate, because that's, criminals, they work very hard at their craft. Okay. They
Wow.
they work very hard at their craft. And for everything that's out here, there is some kind of illegal activity that can be associated with it, right?
Right.
So criminals, you got people that will go and falsify bank statements. They could go and get fake paycheck stubs. They could go, all they need is a copier or a printer, a
Mm.
color printer. I mean, you got people that's trying to counterfeit money off of a color printer, and depending on how, good your what do you call it, your equipment is, will determine how far you can go with that activity. But so you got to be a step ahead and you have to think smart. I know a lot of us get anxious, a lot of us get um we want what we want when we want it at
Yeah.
that particular time,
Yeah.
and you just have to be smart. If it seems too easy, then take a second thought.
That's good. That's good. So you mentioned earlier about we need to invest in stamps. So you're saying to dispute our credit, we got to do some writing.
Well, with this age of technology at our fingertips, everything is at the fingertips, everything is at your fingertips, because it is easier, right?
Right.
It's right there in your hand as a consumer. But yes, if you choose to dispute your credit reports, online, and they make it so convenient for you. They make it easy for you. It's so enticing. I mean, I've almost fell prey to it, okay?
Wow.
But because it's so convenient to do. But
Right.
when you do it online, you are foregoing a lot of different rights for yourself because it's through an entity that is third party. You know, when you're doing it online, even if you're at that bureau, it's considered still kind of third party.
Mhm.
And with that third party, that intercessory in between you, you losing and you're foregoing and you're giving up a lot of your rights. So yes, do it the old fashioned way. Get you some stamps, get you some envelopes, write them out to the different, credit bureaus, and put your dispute letters in there. They have forms. Now print your forms off, from the credit bureaus because they have the forms that you can use, and write them out, fill them out, and mail them in. When you mail them in with snail mail, you are allowing yourself, if you're disputing something, that agency bureau has 30 days to respond from the time that they get it, right?
Okay. Uh-huh.
And then from the time that they get it, they have that 30 days. And then when they respond back to you, you have a certain time frame to be able to respond back to that, whether you want to appeal it or not, or you disagree with it. And from that, then the bureau has, if it's something that is valid and they see that it does need to be disputed or it can be removed or whatever, when you're disputing it, you ultimately are trying to remove it from your credit report. Okay.
Got
So if you can get it removed off of there, that's beautiful. That's great because that's the ultimate goal. You want only good things showing on your credit report. If you have a few blemishes, depending on how long that particular open trade line has been open, then sometimes they understand life happens. But yeah, you want to use snail mail. And then the other thing that after you pull your credit report, you go through it and you start disputing things. You want to also be able to I'm trying to use the right words. You want to just make sure that you stay on top of what it is that you are trying to do. Create it. Go to the Dollar Tree. Go get you a poster board for 50 cents or two for $1 or whatever it is, and write out everything that you have to do. Write out a timeline. Mark your calendars. When you need to respond to something. Mark down the dates on a calendar. Put it in your phone and set a reminder so that you stay on top of you. If you're a couple of days behind, no, it's not going to hurt you, but you want to get in the habit of becoming disciplined because this is working for you and your benefit. So, yeah, it's
I like that to build that discipline in there to be able to notify, to remind yourself to follow up on this task. Now, granted, I was just like you. I was a good steward, and even my husband said it. They said, Teresa, you dispute the credit report better than the people at home. Why are you paying somebody else to do it when you know how to do it and you have more of a success rate? But a lot of times it's because of that time and that patience that you're talking about. And since the pandemic, I have been revisiting it, pulling the credit reports. So what if someone pulls their credit report and they can't, for some reason, get it online or have it sent to them? You have to send in proof of identification, but you've had past credit history.
so let me understand what you're saying. You're saying if someone pulls their credit report
And they're
or
being
can't.
and they can't. In other words, with the annualcreditreport.com, you can go and request it and you can get it instantly where you can download it. Because I have did it and I was able to do it. But for my spouse, for whatever reason, I couldn't do that for him. But I know he has credit history. So
Okay.
the bureaus are asking for identification, proof of residence, and all this stuff. But this has happened frequently.
Okay.
So is that common or is there something alluding towards identity theft?
I've never heard of that, other than, someone not having credit at all. But, if you're of a certain age, you should have some history with credit out there. You know, it might not be more recent history, but you should have something out there, and trust and believe they when you pull that credit report, they got addresses I forgot I lived at on there. Okay. So it's very anytime you are attaching your social security number to it, it's showing on your credit report. But in a situation like that, what I would suggest is definitely contacting the credit bureau directly over the phone. Don't do it online. Do it over the phone. You want to physically talk to someone because
Yes.
you might have other questions that you might want to ask them. And if you have somebody physically on the phone, then they can guide you and lead you in the right direction. But I would say definitely contact them. If you have to do it through snail mail, whatever it is they tell you to do, do it. So if you got to go and show them, do a copy of your driver's license front and back. If you got to, provide your social security number, if you have to send in a handwritten letter with that, do it. Handwritten letters are, it's old school, but and when they get it from the credit bureaus, when they receive these letters, they know whether if it's you personally doing it or if you having somebody do it for you. They know it because there's usually a lot of times the same language is being used verbatim. You can't do it verbatim. You have to change up the language. They can give you a template to use, and then you just kind of write it out in your own words. Front and back, it don't matter how many pages it is. Definitely make it more than a paragraph, because when you're doing that letter one is going to be attached to your file with the credit bureau, and then two, it's your moment to explain yourself. It's your moment to, it's your 3 minutes of fame, so to speak, with the credit bureau. You write it out, you state your facts, you state your position, you state whatever it is that you feel is incorrect, and then you sit back and you wait. You wait. What I do is I try to let people know certain things that makes sense to get rid of. So if there's an address on there that you've never lived at,
Right.
dispute it. If your name is showing incorrectly, dispute it. Those are the simple things to come off. Okay.
Right.
They don't bring up your points any, but they're the simple things that you'll be surprised. A lot of people don't understand that information can get put onto your credit report by human error. Somebody on that other end is putting that information into the database, and I get stuff for my maiden name is Willis. I get stuff that's sent to Tina W. Noble. Well, W ain't my middle name.
Right.
Dispute stuff like that, so it's simple things like that. Now the more harder things, the things that you kind of got to roll up your sleeves and kind of put a little elbow grease in, is the accounts that are showing on there. Look
Right.
and see if there are anything. First of all, look through and see if all the accounts that are showing on your credit report are actually yours. A lot of times when you use credit companies, um or your friend might do these things or whatever, sometimes they might have mirrored someone else's credit and put it on yours to bring you up credit wise. But you have to look at that, because if there's accounts on there that are not yours, and you've never had a credit card with ABC credit, bank or whatever, then dispute that. Those are things that you can dispute. You have to look at how old things are. Sometimes there's a time frame depending on what the transaction or what the reported activity is. There are time frames that go on with how long they should last on there. So, like inquiries, if you might have tried to apply for credit, with okay, let's just say you've been in Macy's, right? And you know how they're always trying to get you, oh, you can get an extra 10% off if you applied for a Macy's card. Whether you get the card or not, you can still get that extra 10% off. Well, yeah, taking the 10% off at that time is fine, but when they run your credit, that's an inquiry. Okay. So,
Right.
and that inquiry can last on there for about 2 years.
Wow. Didn't know that.
So, and if you have a slew of inquiries on there, then that brings down your credit score a little bit because it looks like you just out there just trying to, get credit, which, we are, but you have to be strategic with how you do it. If you're going for an auto loan, people don't know this until they're looking at their credit reports, if they ever do. When you go for one auto loan, depending on if you are denied that first one, they may shop you out trying to get you placed with any number of finance companies that they deal with. Well, they might deal with about 20 to 30 different finance companies.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
that's about 20 to 30 different times that your credit report is going to be ran trying to get you approved so that they can make a commission
Mm.
and send you home with your car. But people don't understand that. And too many inquiries looks bad on your credit report.
You've been listening to Courageous Conversation with Teresa W. Gamble. Courageous Conversation is powered by Concierge Resource Professional Consultant. Would you like to be a guest and have your story, lesson, and best practice to be captured in an audio encyclopedia? We are currently reviewing applications for future guests to join us. For more information and to be considered, please email info@crpcnow.com to request an application. Be not weary in well-doing. You shall reap if you faint not. Galatians 6:9.